it out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 607th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey, me. That's me. Could we switch these?
Yeah, and Nancy Wolf.
And Nancy Wolf, who is here. And it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
You didn't say it was great to have me here. So
yeah, well, it's great to be with you here.
Oh, is it
today.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. This week, we're recording this on the 16th of January, so we're starting the week's news on the 9th of January, which was last Thursday. And all of this, as I say every week, comes from my blog, geoharvey.com. You can go there and find the articles by looking at the calendar and clicking on the date and then just, finding the articles. Or you can go down on the screen. And if you happen to be at a computer rather than a very dumb television. Do people use dumb televisions these days?
Of course they do. I don't know why, but they do. They have them, I guess. That's why. They
still have radios.
Oh, yeah. Radio's important.
They still read print newspapers.
That's also important.
Yeah. And, Benjamin Franklin set type for print newspapers. We are connected to our past, but not as well as I would like. Anyway, you can go down on the screen and find the description of this show, which has as its last line a tiny URL link that will take you to the website that I use, Nancy uses for putting together the show, which everything there is in this show. So we're going to start out with a picture of the Tetons.
Yeah.
Why do we have a picture of the Tetons? Well, it's because Joe Biden put a ban on most offshore oil and gas drilling, but he did it using well, let's...
I'll read this headline here from Clean Technica. It's, can Biden's ban on federal offshore oil and gas drilling withstand the Trump administration?
Well, you see, you just tipped the hand of how this is, oil and gas.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Basically,
yep.
What he did was he banned offshore oil and gas drilling off the Atlantic coast of the United States, the Pacific coast of the United States, the eastern part of the Gulf Coast of the United States, and the north coast of Alaska. There's not a lot left except for Texas and Louisiana. And he banned it. Now the question is, can Donald Trump undo that?
Yeah.
And the answer to that question is apparently not. Unless Donald Trump can, and he probably would if he tried to do it, and he probably will, get Congress to reverse the language that fails to say that a president can't undo the previous president's
This is why it's so important to vote for both your president and your Congress people and all your elected leaders, because they all affect your lives, each one of them.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. Anyway, let me read the synopsis. President Biden took another big step to secure his environmental legacy with a decree to protect our coasts from offshore oil and natural gas drilling. To do this, he used a law that has no language allowing a subsequent president to revoke the ban. So we'd have to have Congress act on it.
Yeah.
And it will be interesting with our current Congress to see whether it will actually do that. My guess is that it would.
Yeah.
Because I think, I don't want to go into Donald Trump. He's a nuisance.
Right. And we have a lot to cover with with the wildfire.
We do indeed.
And this one is, oh yes, we have this photo of the firefighter.
Yes, that's right.
And this is from ABC News. And the headline is Climate Change Contributed to the California Wildfires.
Well, guess what? It did.
Yes, true statement. True statement was made.
Climate change plays a major role in unprecedented wildfires raging in Southern California. 5 wildfires, and by the way, it was not limited to 5. Another one started up. 2 of them have died down. Palisades, Eaton, Hearst, Woodley, and Lydia are burning in the counties of Los Angeles and Ventura. Climate change is making things that may happen naturally much more intense and frequent. And I think I'm going to repeat this because I do whenever I can. We do have cold weather. We do have wet weather. We do have those things that you would say, how can this happen in global warming? And the fact is, if you're talking about weather, it can happen.
Yeah.
You can have cold weather when the temperature has gone up 1.5 degrees. It can come. The problem is, look at the number of record temperature days. How many of them are cold? How many of them are hot? If the climate isn't changing, those 2 numbers will be close to the same. A year ago, what I found was that hot weather records were being set at a rate of 10 to 1 over cold weather records. Obviously, the temperature is going up. But anyway.
One thing that I think, please, was this article. Oh wait, never mind. Sorry, this is for future articles.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one is from Renews, and we have that picture, which is a hydro-store project.
Yeah. So this headline is DOE, Department of Energy, mulls backing long duration storage project.
Yep. The developer HydroStore received a conditional commitment for a loan guarantee to help fund a 500 megawatt, 4,000 megawatt hour energy storage project in California. The loan guarantee is for up to $1.76 billion with the U.S. Department of Energy's Clean Energy Financing Program. Now, 4,000 megawatt hours is a lot of energy to store. That's a lot. Not the biggest. The biggest one is that one that's going up in Maine, which is 8,500 megawatt hours. But, you know, our batteries are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Absolutely.
This is what you would call a 500 megawatt 8-hour battery. If it discharges at 500 megawatts, it's going to be able to do that for 8 hours. Now, that's going to be picking up energy from the grid. If it's picking up primarily solar energy, it'll get that during the day, and then it'll have 8 hours at half a gigawatt, 500 megawatts, that it can just do. And we'll hit another one later on in this thing that talks about more of that. We're up to Friday, January 10th. We have another horrible picture. By the way, I've got 6 of these pictures of fires.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah.
And it's really distressing. But the thing is, let's just read it. This is from Clean Technica.
This is wildfire climate misinformation is rampant, and social media platforms are promoting it.
I got so upset over this that I started running experiments.
Yeah.
And my experiment, as difficult as this was, was to do a Google search. I'm saying Google search because that's what a lot of people use.
Yeah.
On renewable, and then naming MSN, which is the news source. Just renewable MSN. Look at what comes up over a 24-hour period. And what I found was 13 items came up. 4 of which were true. Items that supported renewable energy, a couple of which might have been true, and a bunch of which were clearly not true.
Yep.
And this is just one site where the majority of what they say is misinformation. And it blew me away. A couple of days later, I did the same thing. The result was almost the same. And today I did the same thing again. It tipped more in the scale of truth today. But they had, and they were running the same story day after day.
Yeah, they're just like, well, as we were talking, they're regurgitating. It's not just that they're resharing it; they're updating it. They know they're using it's marketing. They're using marketing to be able to fine tune their message.
That's right.
They're doing A and B testing, and they're trying to figure out what's going to work and what's going to get them more money, more clicks. And that's how these content farms work.
We've got to change the way we do things. Let me read the synopsis for this. Devastating consequences of the climate crisis are being hidden by climate misinformation messengers who are persuaded by a very powerful minority. I think we could say a dozen people. Maybe. I think that's how big the minority actually is. There are a lot of people involved, but they all go back to somebody. And you can name who these people are. The Koch brothers, well, one of them is dead. People named Mercer, people named Murdoch, and why are these people doing this? Because they can make more money.
Yeah.
And they're perfectly happy to destroy people's lives. Apparently, this is my opinion.
Short term.
Yeah, social media has become a tool for the right wing to brainwash citizens. And that's 100%. What it is.
100%.
So that's the second fire photo. Now we've got relief.
We have relief.
And we have an item from Enerdata.
Yeah.
I don't know what Enerdata is, but that's where it came from.
Well, so this one is Germany added nearly 20 gigawatts of renewable power capacity in 2024. Woohoo!
All right, 20 gigawatts. People are complaining because the Germans shut off 3 nuclear power plants, which I don't remember how big they were, but they were less than 3 gigawatts. This 20 gigawatts of renewable energy is not equal to 20 gigawatts of nuclear energy because of the capacity factors. But 20 gigawatts of renewables is probably going to be 5 or more gigawatts of nuclear because the sun doesn't always shine, and stuff like that.
Yes.
Nevertheless, they got rid of their nuclear plants. Now they don't have to pay for them, and they are powered by the sun and the wind and,
Yeah.
Who do you pay for that? I don't think they've had any bills.
The sun has not sent an invoice. I'm sorry, that's confusing.
Well, there it is. Okay, so should we go on?
Let's go on.
Okay, we're back to a picture of looking for images. I was working in the last week on Green Energy Times, and I had to find images. We needed good images. And CAL FIRE, which is California Fire, I forget what the formal name of it is.
I think it's just
it's CAL FIRE.
Yeah.
They had like 167 images of the Palisades fire, and I'm sure that it's greater than that now. They had other images of those fires because there were multiple fires out there.
Those are generally, I find, when working on my documentary work, sometimes I'm going into breaking news stories and trying to find live video, and I will say that the firefighters have the best video. When I would look for materials, it's really the folks that are working there because they have their cameras on. And so they're going to capture something that is going to be just the closest and most accurate thing you can get.
Yes, and here it is. Okay. What do you have for a title?
Oh, yeah.
ABC News, by the way.
This one is California fires, at least 10 fire-related deaths, medical examiner says.
Thousands of firefighters are battling at least 5 sprawling wildfires. I know that the number of wildfires grew from that. Spread around the Los Angeles area. The largest, the Palisades fire in Pacific Palisades, has scorched over 19,000 acres. Now, bear in mind, this is not as of today. This is as of the 10th of January. It's gone well over 20,000 acres, destroyed thousands of structures, and remains 0% contained. Well, today it's 20% contained or something. And it's frightening to think that it's 20% contained after they've been fighting it for a week. And it's in the city of Los Angeles.
It just reminds me of of course, I don't remember the name of the fire, but the last big fire in California. And when I first learned about firefighters who are in jail, who are given a very, I don't know, you could call it modern day slavery, because they're being paid last reporting I had heard was an hour a day, and that's pretty low. $1 a day. And yes, they're given a choice, and the choice that they're giving gives them access to visitors. So if you're in prison and you have an opportunity to maybe see getting a little bit of money, those things are really important, and those folks are not being taken care of well because they're prisoners.
Yes.
So that's an aspect, that's a labor aspect of this story that it's known. Certainly it is known, but I think it needs to be known more.
Yeah. I think you're right. And people who don't have connection with prisons really don't have an understanding of what they are like.
Yeah.
I was shocked to discover that money doesn't do you any good in prison, and not in all prisons anyway. What does you good is cigarettes.
Yeah.
And you can get cigarettes into the prison for a person who who's in the prison, but at a price that is well over $10 a pack. And maybe that's what they are in the stores now. I don't know, but
That sounds cheap to New York.
Okay, $20
I feel like New Yorkers pay $15 or $20 or something.
Do they?
I have no idea.
This was just, it was unbelievable. And I mean, I was put into a position where I wanted to get support to a person who was in the Maricopa County prison. And to do that, I had to go to Western Union, sending money to somebody whose name I had never heard before, who was the wife of somebody who was in the prison, and she would take her cut, and then the cigarettes, the carton of cigarettes that I had just bought, would be delivered to a guy in the prison whose name I didn't know, and then he would deliver them, I hope, to the person I wanted to get them to. And the other thing that I found, and this is something that I think is even worse, was I talked with this person on the phone, and he said, Maricopa County Jail is run like a university. They have classes there. You can sign up for the classes. You can pay for the classes in cigarettes. And I said, what kinds of classes? Are you learning French? And he said, oh no, I don't take the classes, but you can take classes in counterfeiting or making crystal meth or whatever it is that you want to take, because Joe Arpaio has got his attention on making sure that he spends $1.17 or whatever it is feeding the prisoners every day with food that comes in boxes labeled not for human consumption. And he doesn't pay attention to the fact that when a bunch of them are together talking about, it's not Jane Austen.
No, right. Let's compare notes.
Really, I can't see the clock. Can you see what time we are on that red thing?
1956.
Okay, we're right in time here.
In time, okay.
So I'm gonna go to our next not so nasty picture. We have a picture of a Ship loading wind components. That's a big ship. And those cranes are gigantic. And this is from Renews.
Yeah. Vineyard Wind 1 finishes monopile installation.
Yeah, the CIP Avangrid joint venture Vineyard Wind has completed monopile installation at the 804 megawatt Vineyard Wind 1 off the coast of Massachusetts. An announcement on Vineyard Wind's website shows all 62 monopiles installed. Vineyard Wind is starting cable laying, which will run through April. Now, my guess is that they're going to have this project complete by the end of this year. That's my guess. You want to take bets? No.
No, I don't want to take bets on you as manufacturer. No, I will not. The comment I have here is from my friend, as I talked to my friend about this article before I came.
Yeah.
And he says, where are the seagull deaths?
You're kidding me.
He's like, where are they? Do we know?
Oh. Well, I don't know about seagull deaths. There wouldn't be any from laying the monopiles.
No.
And when the wind turbines go up, there might still be none.
Right.
The thing that I've heard is that when certain kinds of geese come up against these offshore wind farms, they go between the wind turbines and take the corridor straight through without getting involved in the wind turbines.
Okay.
And that they can tell because they've got radar that will actually pick up a bird.
Yeah, they're a little smarter.
The other thing is, I know that there was a report a few years ago about a female eagle who lived in a wind farm in Scotland. She lived in the wind farm.
In the wind farm.
And she had actually raised several successive nests full of chicks. And they knew what to do. Not all birds know what to do.
Right. Not all birds.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So we shall go back to the hideous mess.
Right.
This is from Time Magazine.
Yeah. So this is about the LA fires, and LA fires show the reality of living in a world with 1.5 C of warming.
This is astonishing. The Southern California blaze was a kind of hell. Residents at a nursing home were evacuated in wheelchairs and pushing walkers, many in their night clothes as embers fell. Can you imagine that? Being 90 years old and firefighters who, with hoses ready but without water at hydrants, could only watch the houses burn.
I have a friend who watched her sister's house and business go up in flames live on CNN. Like, things like that are very devastating and it's like, and so this friend of mine has been trying to dig into all of this stuff because she's like, why were there what's going on? Where is the water? Where are the data centers? And so she's doing her own investigating right now and trying to find someone to help her, but she's just devastated.
I wish I had written down where I found this, but there was an article about where the water was going.
Yeah.
And that article said, it tracked it. It's coming down from Sacramento in canals and, all that stuff. But what happens is it gets divided up and put into various reservoirs around the Los Angeles area.
Yeah.
And the ones where the fires were happening in the worst way, the reservoirs ran out, and they have to have water come in to fill them. So they just didn't have enough water. And the water distribution system was not designed to provide as much water as these fires asked for.
Yeah. It just, my mind is going to a very specific story. Maybe I'll remember it later. But of the water rights.
Oh no.
And the selling of those water rights back when. Anyway, I'll remember. Hopefully, I'll remember at the end. But it's a historical
this is
story.
a huge issue
It's a historical
in the West.
story of the West, of where they were trying to build this thing, and it's there. A dam, maybe. I'm trying to remember what it was exactly, but it's a moment in history when basically they were trying to buy the water rights out of this town and saying, okay, well, we're just going to put this here. And then, we're going to get the water rights. And it's in California. I don't remember where exactly. I have to come back to this. But,
well, this is all over the West, though.
Yeah.
And the big issue is the Colorado River. Yeah. But I look at this and I say they should be building swales all over those hills. They should be building swales all over. And in case anybody doesn't know what a swale is, it's a little bit of a hole in the ground, not a deep hole. It's a shallow hole in the ground, and it's built in such a way that if water gets to the point where it's deep in there and it starts to flow out, it's going to be flowing out over the whole thing because it's all level. And the work they have done in the Sahara with swales, people just go in and dig these things 20 feet across, thousands of them, and 3 years later they've got a jungle growing. It's amazing. That's what they should be doing in California because those swales provide water to the water table. And in order to deal with the droughts, we've got to deal with the water table.
Yes.
But there's good news out of these things, and it's good. Yeah. Okay, next issue. There it is, an Aptera.
It's as I said to my friend, this is the Jetsons vehicle, perhaps, maybe.
This is one of the coolest cars I've ever seen, and I've been following this thing since I started my blog.
I see. Well, it must be in progress for.
This is a crowd-funded car.
Ah.
And it's gone through a long series of things where they tried to get it out as a gasoline-powered vehicle in the early 2010s, and the company went bankrupt, and it was purchased by a Chinese company, which was going to move it to China and make it, and that company didn't do it, and it got bankrupt again. The original founders of the company bought it back, turned it into an electric vehicle, and it might come out this year.
Wow.
So here it is from Clean Technica.
Yeah, three-wheeled electric vehicles are coming for your fossil fuels.
Yeah. A market for three-wheeled electric vehicles is beginning to take shape, and that's good news for the United States electric vehicle startup, Aptera. That's what that is. That is an Aptera, which, by the way, means no wings. That's literally what it means. The company just earned a big vote of confidence from the A-list battery manufacturer, LG Energy Solutions, smoothing the path to full production this year.
Woo-hoo.
This is, and that vehicle, by the way, is a lot bigger than it looks.
Yeah.
Now I know that.
I wish it. I like a Spock. But it looks so cool.
It looks cool.
It's the Jetsons.
But Nancy, if you were to stand up next to the door of that thing, I think your head would be above it.
Yes.
But that thing is tall and it's wide. That's a 3-person vehicle, 2 in front, 1 in back. Or a big dog, I'm talking about a St. Bernard or something in the back.
Yeah.
And on the hood, or what looks like a hood, those are solar cells.
Oh yeah.
And that vehicle, I did a calculation. In Vermont, it would gather 25 miles of range every day if it just sits there. So if your job is 10 miles away, you might go through a year without ever charging it.
Amazing.
Isn't it?
Amazing.
I've wished that I was going to say I wished that I could get one, but the fact of the matter is I don't have a driver's license anymore.
Maybe this is my next plan.
Oh, all right. We're up to Sunday, January 12th, and we've got something here. Oh, yes. It's the Palisades fire. More of that. This is from The Guardian.
Yeah, I thought this was a really, really good piece. And I'll just give you the headline
first. Oh, I love
first.
the headline of this.
Los Angeles is on fire and big oil are the arsonists.
Yeah.
Very bold and very important and
probably very accurate.
And accurate
now,
as well.
The fact that they're murdering people doesn't mean that it's premeditated.
Yeah.
In this particular case, the fact that there's a fire doesn't mean that they physically set it, but that doesn't mean that they're not arsonists. Right. They are, if you rob a bank and somebody gets killed because you robbed the bank, even if you didn't shoot him or something, you could be tried for murder.
Yes.
Maybe not first-degree murder, but nonetheless. And these companies, I think they've been getting away with things much longer than Donald Trump has.
Of course, absolutely, absolutely.
Now, maybe I shouldn't have said that, because Donald Trump maybe isn't getting away with things, but
that's someone's opinion.
No, he was found guilty of.
Certainly. How does that impact him?
It means that he is a felon.
Right,
now.
But how does that impact him?
I don't know. But if he invades Greenland or Panama, or which the United States never owned the Panama Canal,
yes.
At least there's a difference. He should know. But if he invades these places, or Canada, that means that he's committing a war of aggression. That would mean that he would be. He would be guilty of war crimes if he did.
Yeah,
those things.
sure. Yes, agree. And
I
just see how Teflon he is, and he's Teflon. But that's.
Okay, let me read the synopsis for this article.
Yes.
The private forecaster AccuWeather, I use AccuWeather, estimates initial damage and economic loss of the Los Angeles fires at over $50 billion. And says they could be the costliest wildfire disaster in American history. Oil, gas, and coal companies have been lying to us for decades, and their lies have costs. In this particular case, to a bunch of people in Los Angeles, $50 billion.
And the thing that I highlighted, I didn't finish this one, but the thing that I did highlight was the science is clear.
Oh yeah, the science is clear.
It's been clear, and they've been doing what they can to cover up that science and to make that science stupid, to make it seem, oh, that's silly. They've done everything that is possible legally and marketing-wise to paint scientists as something people should be skeptical about. Just a campaign.
And a lot of people don't have enough science.
Correct.
To be able to judge
That's correct.
this. And I would think that a year of high school science would be enough for a lot of people to be able to say, wait a minute, we're talking about the question of reason here. In science, if something is known, there's only one solution. Now, climate change, when Barack Obama was president, and he said 97% of scientists agree, there were various news organizations, MSNBC being one of them, who did a different kind of review of that. And what they found was that it wasn't 97%. They all found the same percentage. But the biggest study was done by MSNBC, went over years. Their study was based on peer-reviewed papers that came from climatologists and meteorologists. They were not throwing immunologists into this or something. An immunologist is a scientist, but is not equipped to do this any better than anybody else. And what they found was that out of the almost 70,000 scientists whose papers they reviewed, they were able to find 4 who denied that climate change was happening as a result of human activity. Now, that doesn't mean the rest of them all said climate change was happening because of human activity, but they were only able to find. Now, if I were to go to 70,000 physicists and say to them, is it true that you believe that you are the reincarnation of Isaac Newton? I would expect more than 4 of them to say yes.
Are you your hero? Hello.
Are you your hero? Yeah, basically. I mean, this is what I would call consensus. And this is what other people call consensus.
Yes.
And those people who are denying the possibility that climate science is
short-term capitalism.
It's awful. It's awful. Okay, now we have Michael Street in Waterford. By the way, Waterford is in Ireland.
Yes, I realized that at the, yes. No clues until the website with this one, but this is planning permission for 15 turbine wind farms sought in Waterford.
Right. A planning permission application was submitted to On Board Pleanala, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong because it's Irish. I pronounce Welsh pretty well, but Irish I don't. I should learn it. I should learn French too. Roughly 4 kilometers northeast of Capoquin on Scart Mountain in Waterford. The wind farm would be able to provide energy for between 45,598 and 65,661 Irish households. I don't know why their numbers are so precise, but they are.
Specific is specific.
Yes, that's right. Okay, we're back to another picture of the fire, Palisades fire. And this is the last one.
This is the one this is one I was looking at. This is from ABC as well, which is California fires weather forecast, nearly 10 million on alert for fire conditions.
Nearly 10 million people are on alert for fire conditions in Southern California. Red flag warnings are in effect through Wednesday for 8.8 million people in much of Los Angeles and Ventura counties, with a fire weather watch for another 1 million people south all the way to Mexico. Now, I should point out, when they say through Wednesday, they're talking about through yesterday. So, and the conditions that are going on are still not wonderful, but they're getting a little bit of a break now.
Yeah.
And maybe things will get better.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't see. What does the time say?
We're at 38 minutes.
Okay. This is I'm going to have to explain the graph. This comes from PV Magazine International, and I don't have a link here. Well, that means you probably didn't get a link either.
No. This is from PV Magazine International.
Yeah.
And it's the fastest energy change in history continues.
Right. Solar and wind are being installed at a rate that is 3 times faster than all other new electric resources combined. So, put another way, 75% of the new material is either solar or wind. This offers compelling market-based evidence that PV and wind are currently the most competitive and practical methods for deploying new generating capacity. I think there's no doubt about that. And I've seen this through my life. I grew up through 4th grade in a town that had steam engines running through. And then I went to another town, and I had in my class a boy whose father was the executive officer of the submarine Nautilus, which was nuclear powered. So I went from steam to nuclear in like one step. Energy was not big on my radar at that time, but
the thing that stands out for me here is the compelling market-based evidence.
Oh, there's no question about that.
And that's what, and that's what a lot of folks say, let's follow the market. Well, the market has spoken.
Actually, the thing that I keep telling people about is this, is the old story from NextEra Energy, which it's almost 3 years ago now. They basically said they are putting nothing into anything except solar, wind, and batteries for the next 10 years. They own, I think it's at least 6 nuclear reactors, including what's the one in New Hampshire? You know what the one in New Hampshire is. Are you having a senior moment too?
The one in New Hampshire.
I keep thinking Palisades because we've been talking about this
No, I can't.
plants. All right.
I can't find it in my brain
But,
right now.
Yeah, but Seabrook.
Oh, the historic. Oh, of
Yeah.
course, Seabrook. Yes. Now, yes, obviously.
They own Seabrook, and they're not afraid of nuclear, and they own natural gas, and they own coal, and they own all this stuff. They're the biggest utility in the United States, and they're putting absolutely nothing into any generating capacity except solar, wind, and they're putting money into batteries. But that's basically all the infrastructure they're invested in. And meanwhile, they're having arguments in Australia about whether they should build nuclear reactors there. It's crazy. But again, we have media who don't want to tell people the truth about what's going on. What's happening with this chart, could you put that back up, please?
Yeah.
The bars on the left there show the advance in the installation of solar. The next one is wind, the next one is hydro, the next one is nuclear, and the next one, which says other, is all other non-fossil fuel capacity. Now, at this point, natural gas would still be way above solar. Oh, this is additions. Natural gas would be down about where nuclear is now, because it's fallen off. Natural gas in the last year put in 1.5 gigawatts. Nuclear put in 1.1. They're almost the same. And in the meantime, here's solar that's just and wind, basically blowing everything else away. Now we'll see if that continues, because Donald Trump doesn't want wind power done.
Right.
But Yeah. Okay. Now we are talking about tall grass prairie. That grass, by the way, is pretty short for tall grass.
Well, KU research suggests wind power isn't a red versus blue issue in Kansas.
Yeah, and it's not just Kansas. This is from KMUW, which is
Kansas University. What?
I don't know. It sounds like a radio station.
Yeah, that's what that looks like. Call letters.
Yeah. Wind power can spark passionate reactions, but how this one shakes out across Kansas may not follow political lines. New wind installations are not allowed in about 1/5 of the counties in Kansas, in part to protect America's last large swath of tall grass prairie. And of course, that picture is bison on tall grass prairie. And tall grass prairie that has not been browsed recently, they'd walk in there and they'd be up to their necks in grass, but tall grass prairie is so tough, cattle won't eat it. So, anyway, I can see that we've got 40 minutes on the.
Yeah.
Is that what it says?
Yeah.
Okay.
43.
Okay.
44. Yeah.
Got to go a little faster.
Yeah. So we have now making cement with fewer carbon emissions.
Okay, this is from Clean Technica. Production of cement, the world's most commonly most used commodity after water, produces 8% of global CO2 emissions. A study from the University of Michigan describes how electrochemical approach that greatly reduces the amount of carbon dioxide released by the process in making cement. This is one of many ways of making cement without releasing huge amounts of carbon dioxide.
I left this up because this looks like a bit of a complicated
it is, rather,
map,
yes,
if you will, of how this all works. Yeah.
But you can see that you've got inputs from the left, mining inputs, energy inputs below, and then you've got this big electrogeochemical cell, which is putting out calcium carbonate to the cement plant. It's putting out oxygen fuel, hydrogen. Some of the hydrogen is sent off to cars and buildings in the upper right.
Hydrochloric something, Ca.
Well, the cement is coming from CI.
SIO.
SIO, is that two?
Yeah.
I don't see well. And then calcium carbonate at the bottom, which they're using to sequester carbon. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, let's go on.
Okay, now we have a nuclear plant, and this is really this is interesting to me. I think it's interesting to you too.
Yeah, it is interesting to me. Always on nuclear power is about as reliable as wind and solar during a renewables drought.
This is from Renew Economy, which is an Australian publication. They're really into nuclear power now because it is a political question. And Renew Economy, basically, very predictably, is going to come down against nuclear. That's the way I see it. But the scientific community in Australia is against nuclear. And the only people who want nuclear are a few scientists and a large number of business people who see that this is going to involve huge amounts of money. And if there's a lot of money being thrown around, you can always pick some up. Okay, a key selling point for nuclear power is it's always on, and that's reliability. It was put to the test in an analysis that found a fleet of modern nuclear plants is about as reliable as a fleet of wind and solar farms in the midst of a bad renewable energy drought.
I have one question.
Yes.
Where are these modern nuclear plants?
Europe, mostly.
Okay. They exist. Okay, I was like, what?
They're not in Australia. There's no nuclear plants in Australia.
Like, where are they testing?
He was testing these by using plants in countries that have at least 4 nuclear reactors, so that he can compare them. Mm-hmm. Because if you have one, you're gonna be in a position where you've got a really high capacity factor one year and a low capacity factor the next. Yeah. Because you're going to be offline for a month in Europe, maybe 6 weeks, 2 months. You're going to be offline refueling. It's inevitable. Now, when I started my blog, the Fort Calhoun plant was shut down for refueling. It was in the middle of a flood. Mm-hmm. They couldn't start it up in a flood. And they had a fire, which was not a big fire. It wasn't, no nuclear stuff was involved, but it was a fire. And they had to correct that. And then they had to rebuild berms for the flood. And then a flood came back. This plant was basically off most of the time from 2012 to 2016. During that time, Crystal River was off. Do you know about why Crystal River was taken offline?
Nope.
They needed a new heat exchanger. And no door had been put into the dome big enough to get a heat exchanger through, because that was going to be huge. So they got a bid for the heat exchanger. It was $76 million to make the door, and so they said, heck with it, we're just going to do it ourselves. So they opened up a door in the side of the secondary containment, and of course the secondary containment, which is a concrete structure, just delaminated. So they no longer had secondary containment. So their big question was, are they going to put the heat exchanger in and build a new secondary containment, or are they going to give it up? So they gave it up because they knew they couldn't make money by keeping it going. San Onofre closed down, and San Onofre had 2 heat exchangers, mm-hmm. steam generators they're called, and they talked the manufacturer into adding some rods into it so it would improve the amount of heat they were getting. And then after one cycle online, which is probably 18 months, they opened it up, they looked at the thing, they discovered that because the pipes were situated closely, more closely than they had been, they were vibrating enough to hit each other, which meant that they were all cracking. Yeah. So rather than fix that, 2 reactors were closed down. These reactors are not reliable.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. We talk reliability.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
What's reliable?
Okay, we should keep going.
Yeah, let's go. We gotta go.
I still can't read this,
It's
but
50. We're at 50:47.
okay, we're 4 minutes behind.
Yes.
We are up to a piece about ABC News.
Oops, wrong one. Okay, there we go.
There you
yes,
go.
Yes. Actually, let me go again.
Yeah,
I did something
there you
else.
go.
There we go.
That's
okay.
just a picture of lightning.
Yeah. Officials nationwide should prepare for potential climate disasters, researchers say.
Yeah, well, we're seeing that happen in Los Angeles right now, and it can happen in other ways. You know, it can be a hurricane, it can be a drought, it can be all kinds of things. Experts say extreme weather events worsened by climate change are knocking on the doors of people all across the country. Local officials must proactively prepare their regions for their residents before their residents become the next victims of tragedy. And we saw that here in Vermont when Isabel went through. Was the name Isabel? I think it was. Probably. Okay, that was long enough ago that I was a younger man when it happened.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, it didn't hit Connecticut. It didn't hit Massachusetts. It didn't hit New Jersey or New York. It just hit
Oh, yes.
hit
I know
Vermont.
Irene.
Irene,
That's what you're talking about.
That's
because
right.
with New York, when I was living in New York, we had Sandy. And Irene did not do anything. And so when Sandy happened, nobody was prepared because they were like, well, it's just like when it happened with Irene, it didn't hit us.
Yeah.
Sandy.
Yeah.
Sandy hit us, it didn't hit Vermont.
Yeah, and one of the things that I did for Green Energy Times in this most recent issue was we looked at fires and could we have fires around here?
Of course.
And I had, you know, a conversation with an engineer at Vermont Yankee in the old days, and he said, look at this. We're surrounded by farm fields, except on the where the river is. And that river is broad. How can you have a better fire break than that? Sorry, the Peshtigo fire jumped Green Bay, and Green Bay, as its narrowest, is 10 miles across. A fire can jump Green Bay. And in fact, there are people who believe that that same fire jumped Lake Michigan. This is not a joke. This is real.
No, and also I'll say that Vermont is listed as like one of the top climate refugee destinations.
Oh, man. Oh, help.
But
how much do we want to pay for rent?
Yeah, exactly. But I wanted to add in that always the people, which is the end of this ABC News article. We hear about how many people so far have died at this date, and this date was 24 people died according to officials. But this is the end of the story, and as I said earlier, I think people being in front, and then land being after would potentially be, I think, much more effective in communicating what's actually happening.
How many people know what 25,000 acres is?
Yeah, but you do know what 15 people are like, and you know what maybe 100 people are like. You can really understand the devastation.
Yeah, and we've got over 10,000 people who are homeless at this point.
Yes.
And, you know, people are coming together. Anyway, we should go on.
Yeah, let's go.
We have a picture of wind turbines.
Yeah.
And this is from Renews.
It's natural power spins off bat sensing tech. This one was interesting.
Yeah. Natural Power has spun off a smart turbine curtailment technology in the United States developed to reduce bat collisions and fatalities. It should work for birds too. The system limits bat fatalities at wind farms while simultaneously reducing curtailment hours and associated energy losses when compared to a blanket curtailment strategy. What this means is you can focus on the individual turbine and the individual bat. And if the bat's too close to the turbine shuts down. So, you know, in previous technology, if you had 3 bats hanging around a 100 turbine wind farm, you'd shut the turbines down. No, that doesn't make sense. How do you deal with this? Bats are an underappreciated species.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, we have an item on a floating solar array, and this is Wednesday, January 15th. from Tata Power. Tata, by the way, is the name of a power company.
Okay.
In India.
Right. Yes. India, as I realized later, after floating solar panels powering sustainability from water bodies.
Because of the water bodies, floating solar panels not only occupy underutilized spaces, but also operate at a higher performance level due to their cooler operating conditions and reflective surroundings, making them, this is a run-on sentence, making them an important addition to renewable energy technology.
Fascinating. I find this fascinating.
I do too. And there's enough federal land, federal reservoirs in the United States that they can put these things in to supply something like close to half of our electricity needs. So, you know. Okay, the next one, the picture here is a picture of farmers at a solar-powered pump in India.
And it's TRADA to set up over 10,000 solar-powered pump sets in rural areas.
The Tripura Renewable Energy Development Agency announced it is to set up over 10,000 solar-powered pump sets to ensure assured irrigation of rural farmland under the PM Kusum scheme. PM is Prime Minister, I think. TRADA has already set up 3,616 solar-powered pumps. In the earlier way they were doing things, these pumps were all powered by diesel generators.
Right.
So these pumps were polluting the air badly. So the farmers are here, and they're just, I think, somewhat delighted that they've got water to listen to and not a diesel generator.
Yes.
Okay, we are on our last item. It is from Clean Technica. The caption for this photo says Mesa. It isn't a Mesa, it's Mesa, Arizona.
Right.
Actually, on this caption, I took the Mesa out and put in Arizona. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, so it's Arizona and USFS, U.S. Forest Service, I believe that is.
Yes.
Struggle to balance protecting nature and people enjoying it.
Right.
It's a major issue.
Outdoor recreation is a massively growing industry, important to the economy as a whole. It's important also for responsible people to have better respect for nature, especially young people, because it will increase their desire to protect their environment. So, you know, it's a benefit if people, particularly kids, can get out and learn just to be outside. So there you have it.
It's the catch-22. I see it as the catch-22 because people don't know what they're doing, and then they just don't know. There's just not enough knowledge.
Yeah, and if we don't start acting like we've got knowledge, then we're going to have to start acting in a panic because we don't have food, or we don't have fuel, or we don't have something. And they're going to figure out that that was done by Martians and the CIA acting in concert. And then after a while, they're going to realize that blaming it on conspiracy theories is not going to help. So we have to deal with reality. I'm not saying that the CIA doesn't do nasty things and there aren't Martians among us. I'm just saying I don't think they would get together and make life miserable for
Well, how many episodes of X-Files are we watching?
I don't know. Anyway, so we're up to the last slide, which wishes everybody a magnificently comfy week.
I think it's great. I'm ready. I'm ready for comfort.
Let's put us up back again, and we'll wave goodbye and hope that you all come back next time.
Yeah.
Okay.